Imagine waking up before the sun even thinks about rising. The air is cold, the ground is hard, and the only sound is the distant call of a trumpet. This isn't a peaceful morning in the countryside. This is the start of another day for a Roman legionary. Their life was a relentless cycle of discipline, labor, and the constant threat of battle. It was a world away from the marbled halls of Rome, a brutal existence that forged the most effective fighting force in the ancient world. So, what was it really like to be a cog in this mighty military machine? Let's march through a day in the ranks and uncover the harsh realities of a Roman soldier's life. It was a life defined not by glory, but by sweat, grit, and an unbreakable routine. The day began with the blare of the buccina, a curved horn that served as the legionaries' alarm clock. There was no hitting snooze. Immediately, soldiers would scramble to get ready, a process that was all about speed and efficiency. They would quickly don their tunics and grab a simple breakfast. This wasn't a leisurely meal. It often consisted of a piece of panis militaris, a hard dried bread, maybe washed down with some water or pasca, a sour vinegar water mix that was surprisingly refreshing and helped kill bacteria in the water. After this quick bite, it was time for the morning roll call. Centurions, the tough-as-nails officers in charge of about 80 men, would inspect their troops. Every single piece of gear was checked. Was the armor polished? Was the sword sharp? Was the shield in good repair? Any legionary found lacking would face harsh punishment. Discipline was the bedrock of the Roman army. It was absolute and unforgiving. Even a minor infraction could result in a flogging or being put on barley rations instead of wheat, a sign of disgrace. The goal was to instill an unwavering sense of order and obedience. Once the inspection was over, the real work began. And for a legionary, work meant one thing above all else: training. The Romans believed that training in peacetime should be as demanding as actual combat, just without the bloodshed. Recruits, known as tirones, endured a grueling training period. They were taught to march in perfect formation, covering up to 20 miles in 5 hours at a regular pace, or 24 miles at a faster pace, all while carrying a massive amount of gear. Their pack, known as sursana, could weigh over 60 pounds, contained everything they needed to survive. Rations for several days, cooking equipment, a shovel, a pickaxe, 2 wooden stakes for building fortifications, and their personal belongings.
Ow!
This immense weight earned them the nickname Marius's Mules. Training wasn't just about marching. They practiced with their weapons relentlessly. But here's a surprising fact. Their training swords and shields were often made of wood, and were deliberately twice as heavy as the real things. The logic was simple. If you could fight effectively with a heavy, clumsy wooden sword, you would be incredibly fast and deadly when you used your actual, lighter gladius in a real battle. They would practice striking at wooden posts, imagining them as enemies, honing their stabbing techniques. The Roman fighting style wasn't about flashy, heroic duels. It was about teamwork and efficiency. Legionaries were trained to stay in a tight formation, protected by their large, curved shields, the scutum, and to make short, quick, deadly stabs from behind this wall of shields. It was a brutal, effective, and highly disciplined method of warfare. But a legionary's day wasn't just filled with marching and weapons practice. The Roman army was as much an engineering corps as it was a fighting force. After hours of training, the soldiers would often be put to work on massive construction projects. Every single night when a legion was on the march in hostile territory, they would build a fully fortified camp. This wasn't just a few tents circled by wagons. It was a marvel of military engineering, built from scratch in a matter of hours, using the shovels and pickaxes they carried. The legionaries would dig a deep ditch, and behind it, they would build a tall earthen rampart, topped with the sharp wooden stakes they each carried. The camp was laid out in a precise grid pattern, with designated areas for every unit. The general's tent, and even a hospital. This nightly construction was exhausting, back-breaking work performed after a long day's march, yet it was non-negotiable. This fortress provided them with a secure base, protecting them from surprise attacks and allowing them to rest with a degree of safety. Beyond building camps, legionaries were the empire's master builders. They constructed the famous Roman roads that connected the vast empire, built bridges, aqueducts, and canals. Many of the great engineering feats of the Roman Empire were built not by specialized laborers, but by the sweat of its soldiers. This constant labor kept the soldiers physically fit, disciplined, and too busy to cause trouble. A popular Roman saying went, "An idle soldier is a dangerous soldier." The generals made sure their men were never idle. Around midday, there would be a break for the main meal. It was more substantial than breakfast, but still simple and practical. A common dish was a thick porridge or stew called poles, made from wheat or barley. It could be supplemented with whatever was available locally, such as beans, lentils, or vegetables. Rations were distributed to each small group of 8 men, the contubernium, who would cook and eat together. This small unit was the legionary's family. These 8 men shared a tent, shared their food, and would fight side by side in battle. The bonds forged in these small groups were incredibly strong and vital for morale and unit cohesion. They relied on each other for survival in every sense of the word. After the midday meal and a short rest, the afternoon might bring more training or more labor. There was always another ditch to dig, another wall to repair, or another drill to perfect. The routine was designed to be monotonous and demanding, grinding down individual will and forging a collective disciplined unit. As evening approached, the pace would finally slow. The final meal of the day was another simple affair, often leftovers from midday or more bread and water. This was a time for soldiers to tend to their gear, mending their leather straps, sharpening their weapons, and preparing for the next day. It was also a rare moment for some leisure. Soldiers might gamble with dice, a popular but often forbidden pastime. These moments of camaraderie were essential for mental survival. Life was incredibly hard, and the constant threat of death was very real. Studies of human psychology show that strong social bonds are crucial for resilience in high-stress environments, a principle the Romans understood well. These shared moments of downtime helped them cope with the immense pressures of their lives. Finally, as darkness fell, the camp grew quiet. Sentries took their positions on the ramparts, their eyes scanning the darkness. The rest of the legionaries, exhausted from the day's toil, would crawl into their shared leather tents, huddling together for warmth on the hard ground. Sleep was a precious commodity, a brief escape before the buccina would sound again, signaling the start of another identical brutal day. This was the life of a Roman legionary, a 25-year commitment of relentless hard work, iron discipline, and unwavering duty. It was a life of sacrifice, but through that sacrifice, these men built and defended an empire that shaped the course of history. Their individual stories are mostly lost, but their collective legacy is etched into the roads, walls, and foundations of the modern world. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. To discover more stories from the annals of history, be sure to subscribe to our channel, Historical Repo.